Well, good morning and welcome to each of you. I'm going to make you aware that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. And with that, I am going to call this meeting to order. And the reason of today's special meeting is for the purpose of reviewing and considering the 2026 draft budget. And I think it's fair to say that this is the most difficult budget that most of us have been a part of. And we're going to be having some difficult discussions. Staff have provided us with a lot of information, and we have a responsibility as councillors to make the best decisions we can in the interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and its ratepayers. So we have a lot of ground to cover this morning, and I am going to ask that you be clear and concise with your comments. And if you have more than one comment or question, maybe just hold it at the one. Maybe somebody else will ask the same question you were going to. And if not, then you can come around to that again, just for sake of keeping the morning flowing as efficiently as we can. So with that, I am going to ask for an approval of our agenda for today. And that is Councillor Noel and Councillor Anderson seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest that anyone needs to declare at this time? Seeing none, then we'll go right into our order of business. And Michael, you are going to begin and take us away.
Thank you, Warden, just for the opportunity to have some comments today, and I guess I would echo your sentiment that this I've been presenting this, I think, budget number 13, and it is definitely the most challenging that we've had. And I've been around for 22 years. We had some tough ones early on. I remember back, I think it was 2004, 2005, where we, had some 20% increases that we talked about. So those were just as challenging. Those were interesting times, but this is definitely, one for, the current time that it has been tough, not only just, I can imagine for council, but also for staff as well. So, so since the published budget, so the budget that PDF budget, it's still as at January. So I didn't actually make any changes within the that published draft budget. But we, in terms of the documents that are before you today, there have been some changes that have been made. So since the last meeting, staff have identified some additional operating cuts up to $641,000. Which is equivalent to a reduction of 1.16% on the levy, where we were originally. So just based on those numbers, that would be a 8.77% increase as proposed, and offset by the assessment growth. So if we recall, there was some assessment growth for 25, and that was equivalent to about 1.69% growth. So if we were to factor that in, the tax rate change would be 7.08%. So whenever we're looking at, that levy target, just keep in mind that the tax rate will be about 1.69% lower than the levy increase based on that assessment growth. So a couple of comments I just want to make in this report. So staff, we made these adjustments. We looked at all departments across the board, and we were trying to minimize the impacts of any additional non-union staff cuts for 2026 that might be requested of council. So that's why we kind of preemptively went through and really took a hard look at making some budget adjustments for council's consideration today. The focus here was consulting, conferences, training, and travel and meal expense accounts. And it wasn't just, simply trimming the fat. We went bare bones or even eliminated expenses entirely for some of our service areas for some of these expense categories. And it will have an impact on services. So we just, as staff, want to reiterate to council that 2026 is not going to be a normal budget or a normal year for us as we move forward. It's not going to be business as usual. We're going to have restricted funds in many cases, limited funds in some, zero funds in other cases, and also potentially reduce staff capacity to be able to take on some new work or even pivot in year. So as we work through the year, and if there's new requests that do come up, we're just going to have to bring reports back to council, just advising council that, well, we don't have any consulting dollars available. Can we repurpose or can we reallocate? Can we draw from reserves or different things like that? So some of these in-year requests will require a little more work from staff to bring back reports to county council and request some additional funds from other sources. So it's just not going to be, we just don't have that flexibility anymore where, say, for example, in corporate, I took $15,000 out of the corporate budget. We've got, we always had that just general consulting dollars in there, which provided, some a little bit of buffer room to deal with one-off requests that might come up in year. Well, that's been eliminated now. So we just don't have those funds available. And that's where we'll just have to bring some additional information back to council. So just so council's aware that, in some cases we've eliminated budget amounts entirely. So, and that's okay. But just wanted your awareness on that. I'm not going to go through the chart in terms of the staff proposed adjustments. We'll do that at the very end of the meeting after the closed session, but it is listed there for your review. And again, just based on the cuts that are listed there, it brings it down to about 3.82% levy increase. And the tax rate increase would be 1.69% lower than any of those amounts published. And I do have a list of all the adjustments that were made. It's listed by department and also the nature of the expenses that were adjusted. And you can see kind of some of the service impacts that would be impacted as a result of these cuts. And again, it goes across all departments, including, corporate departments, council, social property services, planning, public works, you name it, they're all there. Everybody came forward with some budget adjustments. So with that, I will leave this report. It's for your information, and I'll take any potential questions.
Thank you, Michael. So if there's any questions for Michael regarding this report, here's an opportunity. And if not, then I'd be looking for motion to receive this report. Past Warden McLellan, Councillor Vanstone seconding that. Those in favor, that is carried. So go ahead to capital adjustments, Michael.
Thank you, Warden. So two items I just want to touch on high level on this report. One is just our future budget pressures, and also just kind of diving into the capital funding for public works, leading into kind of that roundabout discussion that might be a bit of a discussion point for today. So looking at not just this year, we do have some challenges ongoing in 27, 28 and beyond. In my initial budget, in my draft narrative, I projected about 11% increase for 27 and an additional 8.8, or let's round it up to 9% for 28. So despite what we're talking about today in terms of these budget adjustments, these operating cuts we're going to be making today, those pressures are not going to change for 27 and 28. We're going to be right back with these discussions for next year with some of these significant challenges. And the reason for that is what's driving these the leverage are areas that we have limited control over to address in the short term. There isn't something that we can adjust today that's going to have immediate savings for 27 or 28. So those adjustments are potentially longer term adjustments that we would have to look at. We might make the decision today, but it's not going to be, we might not reap the benefits of those savings until 5 years from now. And that's where the challenge lies, is that some of the cuts that or service adjustments we're talking about today are not those key areas that are driving our pressure areas. So despite what we're doing, or the conversations we're having today, it will address 26, but it doesn't change 27 and 28. And I just want council to be aware of that the pressures that we face are ongoing and will continue to be a challenge for years to come. And again, it's not just, we've got our asset management pressures, like we know that's coming. Whether it's this year or 10 years from now, we will have to address that. We've got healthcare pressures. So that's both labor for both homes and EMS. Those continue to outpace their funding. We've got potential service enhancements with EMS. So we have had some we have had some upstaffing with vehicle upstaff. So every upstaffing comes with a vehicle upstaff. And we've got about 3 potentially more upstaffing proposals over the next 10 years for EMS, plus a base renewal. And just corporately, we're a little too reliant on our interest income and also levy stabilization just to mitigate some of those short-term pressures. And as those are backing or reducing, we're just seeing that short-term pain. Once we get through the corporate pressures, so once we can adjust the levy stabilization and the interest, then that pressure will no longer be there. But then we're still going to have some of the capital and some of those healthcare pressures that will be ongoing. And again, those are the areas that we have no control over or very limited control over in the short term. So that's just kind of the little bit of information on some of our current pressures. Now, I do want to kind of dive into our public works funding. And I wonder if I should bring that up. Oh, I don't have it. Okay, I don't have the report up. But if we turn to looking at the report, within the body of the report, I have a table. And it just shows the amount of capital funding that we're actually raising for public works. So within that, for 2025, we are only raising $5.3 million in county levy for public works. So not a lot of money there within public works to support a capital program. So that amount also includes $580,000 in debt financing. So that's money that we're raising, but it's not for new infrastructure. It's just to pay for some old infrastructure that we've previously incurred. So a typo in that chart, it should be 2025 net levy, not 24. But so for 25, our current available funding for new projects is only $4.7 million. If we look at our annual allocations for OSIF and gas tax, or the CCBF, we've benefited from some carry forwards, and which is why we're have more funding that we're bringing into the budget this year. But if we just look at our straight allocations, our annual allocations, that's only $8.1 million. So if we look at the funding that we're raising, the $5 million plus that $8 million, that gives us $12.8 million in current available public works capital expenditures. A little bit in the reserve. So we do have $16.4 million in our reserve. So it's not a lot of money that we really have sitting here for what is coming down the pipe in terms of required capital expenditures for public works. So if we look at 2026, the new capital for 26 is $14.5 million. So that's what's in our budget today, is $14.5 million in expenditures. And that's supported by some our annual allocations plus some carry forward allocations from prior years of our provincial funding, a little bit of reserve usage and whatnot. But we have net new $14.5 million in 26. So you can already see the disconnect there. So we've got available funding going forward at 12.8 each year. But even this year, we're at $14.5 million. Next year, in 2027, so there's a number of urban reconstructs that are coming down the pipe that have to be done. So we're up to $19.4 million in terms of proposed expenses that we're going to need. It only gets worse into 28, where we're looking at $22 million in terms of required capital expenditures. And just looking at our asset management plan going forward through probably the 2040s, we're looking at $20 million a year in terms of in current dollars, in terms of required expenditures for public works. So we're kind of at that point where we're now at the end of that useful life of our roads and bridges, and we're in that renewal cycle. So we've relied on very low capital expenditures for years, and that's why we're only at $5.5 million for the county levy for public works funding. But we're going to have to get up to where we can support, on average, $20 million. And this is where when we brought that asset management plan forward and the financing strategy, this is where we brought that strategy forward, that we're going to leverage debt, we're going to leverage our reserves that we have, and slowly increase our capital funding, especially for public works, by 2 to 2.5% a year. And we were going to have to do that over the next 10 to 15 years to be able to get to where we need to be. Unfortunately, we've fallen short for the past 3 years, including this budget. We've fallen short, and we're already behind the 8 ball on that. So, you know, we can punt this problem down the road for so long, but at some point we're going to see that budget shock. It might not be this year. We can maybe defer it, and that's okay. But at some point, the reality is going to hit that we're going to have to pay for this infrastructure, and we have a lot of it. And that's the, you know, our big pressure area is really just our infrastructure. But once we get to that level of funding where it's sustainable, then we're there, and we're not going to have that pressure anymore, because it's going to be sustainable funding. But it's going to hurt in the short term to be able to get there. So I provided 3 scenarios within that document, looking at kind of keying in on the roundabout, but it could be any project. So scenario A in the attachment there, scenario A is just, this is what's being presented in the 26 budget as presented. Very small increase that we're proposing to actually increase our public works levy, or capital levy, for public works. We're only proposing to raise it by $420,000. So we're proposing to raise it from 5.3 million to 5.76 million. So this 5.7 million is intended to support 14.5 million in new expenses. And that's not taken into account like and the offset to that would be the additional funds would be our current allocations for gas tax, OSIF, plus some prior year carry forwards of those funds as well. So we're basically, with that 5.76 million, we're leveraging, we're able to support $14.5 million in capital expenditures. But going into 27, based on the projections in terms of what's coming down the pipe for what we know is due for replacement, we're going to have to look at a levy increase of 2.7 million, right? So there's where, you know, I'm estimating an 11% levy increase for 27. Well, this is one of the primary reasons why is because we're having to raise our public works levy by $2.7 million for next year to be able to support what's coming down the pipe. And it only gets worse for 28, and that's where we have to raise our levy by $5.4 million to get to where we need to be. Because in the long term, we have to be at that $13 to $14 million range levy to be able to support our renewal of our infrastructure over through probably 2040. And this is really where we had that strategy in place where we tried to mitigate or phase in that increase, because we knew we can't get there to that 13.9 million in 2 years. We know that, but that's where we're going to have some of those financing strategies where we're going to leverage debt, but there's a cost to debt, and also leverage that our public works reserve to be able to mitigate some of the and phase in some of those increases. But it takes time to be able to do that. So that was scenario A as presented. Very small increase being proposed for public works at 5.7 million. So within that, we have the roundabout. So that's 3.2 million. We have some large paving jobs. We got some large bridge jobs. Those are also fully funded by gas tax and OSIF, right? So we've got a number of large projects that are fully funded within our budget right now. So if you actually look at the details within that 14.5 million, there's we've got about $9.3 million in terms of funding that we've also applied to offset those expenses. So that's where we get into what are the impacts, potential impacts of deferral. And that's where we look at scenario B and C. So there's 2 approaches that we can take. So in scenario B, I'm just looking at, okay, so I'm going to defer this roundabout or paving job. They're similar and both fully funded. Doesn't just pick one. So we shift that expense to 27. I would recommend that we also shift the funding that's associated with that to 27 as well, and keep our net levy that we're that we're raising at the $5.7 million. Because I know that I don't want to be addressing I don't want to be leveraging our capital levy that we currently have raised to be able to offset short-term operating pressures. Because we have the long-term capital pressures that we have to build. We're in a situation where we shouldn't be cutting that funding. We should be continually raising that funding to get to where we need to be. So the first strategy would be, okay, well, we'll knock off that $3.2 million, but I'm also going to set aside that $3.2 million that I had going to park that as carry forward, and that way it'll be available for next year. Because that project isn't the only one that's on deck for next year. We also have, an additional $19.4 million in expenses that are being proposed for that year, right? So that 3.2 is going to be deferred. It's going to be added to that 19.4. Potentially, there could be some other deferrals, but you kind of get. We're just not at a point where the work that's being required is at a level that we can actually self-fund right now. That's the problem. So scenario B, really, there's no impact. So I'm reducing the expense, but I'm also reducing the funding that I'm applying, and that's being phased or punted to 27. So no impact on the levy. We're still 5.7 million. If we actually want to talk about the potential savings, this is where we would defer the project or a project that's fully funded, but that we would take some of that funding and use it in year. Use it for current year. So in scenario C, that I just picked $2 million in terms of funding, but we defer $3.2 million. We reduce that expense. But then I also apply that an additional $2 million of funding to our public works program, reducing our levy that we're raising from 5.33 down to 3.76 million. So we've saved $2 million in operating this year to offset our operating pressures, which is great. But the problem is what happens next year. Now I'm starting at a base of $3.76 million in terms of our levy. And now we have to raise that $3.2 million to pay the project and also get to where we need to be. So all of a sudden we save this year, but I have to raise, if we were to approve the capital budget as it stands right now for 27, I'd have to raise the levy by $6.6 million next year, not $2 million, right? So this is where we can leverage some additional funding this year, but it only hurts us in the long run because that capital isn't going away. It can only be deferred for so long, so it's only hurting us. So that's where staff are recommending that, yeah, if we defer it, we defer the funding that's tied to that project as well, and it just shifts. Because then if we can defer it to next year and we have the funding that would be available and we could apply the funding and it would be fully covered with no impact. But we're at this point where, that 5.3 million that we have today in terms of levy, that's not really an area that we can look at for potential cuts from a staff perspective, because it only hurts us down the road. And that's really what I wanted to share with council, and I will leave it at that. So.
Thank you, Michael. And I just wanted to throw something at you, Michael. Deferring a project, the expectation is that there would be additional cost to that project by deferring it. We've never seen a project get cheaper, so just nothing is built into the equation that addresses potential increased cost of a project with what you're suggesting.
Through yourself, yes. There's no additional provisions in there for additional costs, and through feedback from our director of public works, there would be additional costs. There would have to be, if it's being deferred, there would be additional consultations for utility locates and whatnot. And that's not even taking into account inflation, just in terms of but there would be just additional consulting and operating costs that would be tied with that. And I'm sure a director could provide some more information if required, but this does not take into account any cost adjustments.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to council for some discussion. Past Warden McLeod, please.
Mr. Warden, I will try and be, concise, and I hope I have enough things that tick everybody off a little bit, and that means I'm being equitable. I want to first tag on to Mike's conversation about the roundabout. Right off the bat, now that we've lowered the speed limit, I traveled that intersection on a regular basis. I'm going to say it is certainly a lot safer than it was because of the speed limit now. But we don't have a need to have to put the roundabout in now. And I understand some of the arguments about the fact that it would make the corner even safer and that traffic will eventually get to the point where the class of the highway increases, that we may need to do something different. But nothing is stopping us from turning that intersection into a four-way stop for a few $1,000s, which technically does solve all of the arguments that we were given about why we had to do something at that intersection. Two things. One, if it is a four-way stop, it becomes a safer intersection no matter what. The odds of two cars at high speed having a T-bone at the intersection becomes very rare on a four-way stop intersection. The concern about traffic coming off an airport line and not being able to get onto the county road when there is massive traffic on weekends in the summer, long weekends, things like that. If it's a four-way stop, the bottom line is everybody gets an opportunity. It doesn't matter whether you're in a passenger vehicle or a farm equipment, you get your chance to get into the intersection and you're not sitting there waiting for a long period of time. And the fact that there's a stoplight a mile and a quarter away, traffic always has to stop there anyways. And sometimes that lineup gets almost from the traffic light almost out to that corner on long weekends. So I don't see this being a detriment. I'm not talking about deferring it till next year. I'm talking about cancel the program at this point. There isn't a need that we have to do that intersection. That's only going to be adding more of a load to our fixing up our public works amenities down the road by putting this in, because at some point we're also going to have to do maintenance and everything else on it. If we want the corner to be safe, turn it into a four-way stop. I suspect that for a few $1,000s, you're going to be able to accomplish that, and we can accomplish what we need to for that intersection. That was point number one.
Bernie, if you would stop
Okay.
at that point, and
Okay.
Imran is prepared to give some comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Warren, through you. So yeah, the four-way stop control, it was explored as an option during the preliminary study to explore the options. And I'm just going to paraphrase the comments from the consultant, if that's okay. So four-way stop control, this option would require installing stop signs on the westbound and eastbound approaches of County Road 83. While this would create full stop control at the intersection, it would significantly disrupt the main east-west traffic flow and introduce delays, particularly on County Road 83. Which carries higher volumes. The change in traffic pattern could increase the risk of rear-end collisions due to unexpected stopping. Operational analysis showed that this option would reduce level of service for all movements on County Road 83 and result in long forecasted delays. Overall, it is not considered a practical or feasible solution, as it would lower the intersection performance score and would not adequately accommodate future traffic growth. It's paraphrased from the preliminary study that the consultant did at the time of exploring options for the three options four options they considered were do nothing, four-way stop control, signalized intersection, and a roundabout. So just some background on that. The option was explored.
Thank you for that background, Imran. Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. And respectfully to Councillor McClellan's comments there, we are not experts. I just can't say that enough. We come to this council table, we rely on our staff, we rely on experts. BM Ross has conducted a very comprehensive study at our request and at the significant expense of the taxpayer already, including purchasing lands that clearly indicates a roundabout is needed and justified. And like I say, plus our capable staff concur. So this is, after all, our core service. This is what truly the public looks to us for as leaders, is to keep them safe. For us to suggest other options now, I think the public will lose faith in this council. Either we go with the roundabout or we don't. If we don't go with the roundabout, it's just playing a game of Russian roulette, quite honestly. The ones of us that are in the south end part of the county, we know people who've been injured or killed at that intersection over the years, near misses, of course. We hear that all the time. It's not going to go away. So please, of all things that you consider today, do not consider ourselves as experts. That's all I ask.
Councillor Basnet, then Past Warden McClellan, then Councillor Past Warden Ginn.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Curious, what safety precautions have already been implemented at that intersection? You mentioned decrease in speed, and then you probably don't have this data, but since the precautions have been implemented, how many accidents have happened at that intersection?
Imran, is that something you can deal with?
Sorry, I'm just asking clarification on one of the items, but yes, so the actions we've taken so far include all the actions that the county can do internally. So that includes oversized stop signs. We explored the option for, we did the flashing beacons. We put the reflective strips on it. We've put the flashing lights on the stop ahead signs. So these are all the internal options we can explore. And then the other option would have been to do the four-way stop sign, which we didn't do because the consultant didn't recommend. The speed reduction, so it is 70 in that stretch of 83, close to the intersection. So speed has been reduced as well. From our internal perspective, we've exhausted all options.
Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Ms. Warden. I just want to respond. I'm not disagreeing with staff because it was the consultant that said it maybe wasn't a good thing. That's not staff's opinion. They're passing on the information that was supplied by a consultant. And I find it interesting that you put a four-way stop up there, and the concern from the consultant is you could have serious rear-end collisions, yet you don't have the serious rear-end collisions a mile and a quarter up the road where we make everybody stop anyways. We're talking about having two stopping locations. If we want to just stick with the lower speed limit, I do believe that that made a big difference on that intersection and has reduced any liability to the county or to the public overall. I still think that not going ahead with that, we own the land, we have most of the engineering all paid for. In the future, if there is a viable need to make a change, the county still has the option to go ahead with that. We've already got some of the project paid for, but we don't have to do the actual construction work today.
Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yes, thank you. A couple things. Just went to Roma, went to Woodstock I always take back roads because I don't like slowing down for stop lights and the likes, but two new intersections, one on Perth County Road 20, four-way stop put in, County Road 6 going south toward Embro. There's another four-way stop put in there. And we're looking at an intersection that is 90 degrees and perfectly flat. I also travel through Mays Corner, and I know my colleague here has raised that issue where there's big bends on the road. And again, county roads, two county roads, not a county road and a municipal road. But if there's ever a place that you needed a roundabout, I think that's where it should be. And yet our staff didn't recommend it there when the sight lines are so terrible. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I agree. We have the property. We can do this at a later date. I know the financial issues. I can speak to it in another time, but I just can't make the changes proposed here and pay for a roundabout.
Okay. Councillor Finch again, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden, this project is just going to get more expensive, as Michael explained, in the future. We're accountable no matter what. The traffic count is around 12,000 vehicles on 83 highway today, from what I understand. The busiest county road we have in the county, of course. We talk about accidents, was mentioned here too. That's irrelevant, the number of accidents versus the number of near misses. We have a number of near misses. I've experienced it myself, and I've actually had people talk to me about the near misses they've experienced. And the OPP, as I said in the past council meeting, they don't keep track of that unless you phone it in. So there could be thousands, there could be hundreds. We don't have no idea. But it is a game of Russian roulette. And at the end of the day, we are accountable to the public on the safety. And our greatest responsibility, as I say all the time, is to the protection of the people who elected us. And we need to make the best decisions in the best interest of the ratepayers.
I believe Councillor Klopp, Basnet, and Becker.
Thank you. Facts. The county here many years ago said we're going to hire professionals to do the road stuff. Every 5 to 10 years, if that road has to get done, that's put in the budget. Road studies. There's actually been this council or previous council got a road study done on this one, and it gave the options, the recommendations to council. It's already been stated, those facts. You just heard them again. Council bought into the argument, are we really, was that consultant right? So a majority of council voted again to hire another consultant. Lo and behold, the consultant came back and said the same thing, which it better have, because then it's, if we would have had a total different project number that said it wasn't needed or put up 4 stop signs, then this council would have to say that one of those engineering firms should never be hired by anybody. So luckily, they both agreed. It's about the money. I get it. But please let's just state that this project has followed all the rules. When I hear a comment, well, the consultant said, but the staff didn't. That's why we hire them. So if you want to defer it, I don't know why, but the numbers are already there. As far as all of us deciding what we've been, I know that there's the 4-way on the St. Paul Road, but up the road they have a roundabout to keep traffic moving. They also have another one at another corner. Actually, they're only a mile apart. So let's not. If we want to start talking about other people, that's fine, but let's get it all here. I get it. We all look at all these numbers, but just keep in mind the facts are here. This project has been stated, and I think it needs to stay in. And the fact is, we have a structural problem that we bought into like any business. We never subtracted anything. We just kept adding and adding over the years. We hoped the economic benefits would be fine, and we have 2 or 3% increases in taxes. We found out not. We have to change structural issues, get back to our priorities, which is roads, etc. So this is one of them that I think you should leave in. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Basnet, please.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, I can say there's near misses at all kinds of intersections, not just this one, right? People come to us and talk about intersections in all our communities. Airport Road on Highway 21 North is a perfect example of that. Crossing that intersection, we almost had 2 firefighters hit by a car a couple of weeks ago due to a pile up in the wintertime. And yeah, that's the wintertime, but if you drive that road, there's a huge blind spot in that intersection. So my point is, we can talk to our blue in face about near misses and all this stuff, but I ask for, what is the data since we've implemented these other precautions? How many accidents have been calculated or happened since we've done this? Because $3.2 million with a budget that we're looking at is still $3.2 million. And yeah, it might be more money in 2027. I agree with that. It's going to be more money. But then maybe council needs to decide, maybe we don't need to do this at all then, if it's going to be more money with what we're looking at in the future.
Councillor Imran, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Warren. If I can touch on, the question about the collisions and maybe just some other factual information that might help you. Collisions, so I don't have the number if the number's changed since we implemented those measures. Is something we can look into. But just a conversation around why this location and why not another location. Intersections are not looked at from a linear way. There's multiple factors. So an intersection with traffic is a big consideration, but also depends what the ratio of traffic is between your high traffic road and the adjacent road. All of those factors were considered when establishing if the roundabout is the preferred option, including collisions, which were factored in at the time. And a note on collisions is for engineering designs and stuff, we don't question why the collision happened. Like you may question it to a certain degree at the start of the design, but for intersections, especially if you're having collisions, there are benchmarks where if a certain number of collisions happen, it just triggers the next step up because collisions are happening and you have to look at it. So in any case, all of those have been factored into it by the consultant. I do want to state on the leg side, I see a lot of conversation around it. Why do we need it here, not there? Legs of intersections have a level of service rating, and that's how the consultants judge it. And one of the legs for the airport in 83 rated as a D, which if I can just tell you what a level of service D means. To summarize it, it basically means heavy traffic, longer delays, and limited gaps. Drivers need to pay attention and be patient. Often consider the upper limit of what is acceptable to built-up areas. So we're right at that cusp of what is considered acceptable based on traffic volume, speed, and collisions. And the engineer expects that within 20 years from the time that they did that assessment, it will go to a level of F. So hopefully that gives you a sense of, if we do defer it, when do we need to do it? And we are already at that upper limit of what is considered acceptable, and it's only going to get worse from there.
Thank you, Imran. I see a few more hands. I'm going to suggest that this be new information if you're going to present, please. Councillor Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Imran, for the information. Saturday night, we were going to Exeter to pick up our granddaughter from work, and the road conditions weren't great, but all of a sudden we seen these set of lights coming down Airport Line, Highway 4A, as we call it in Blue Water. This individual never even braked. He blew right through the stop sign. If I'd have kept going at the normal speed, we'd have been T-boned. And all these accidents are caused by vehicle coming off the concession roads. It's not caused by the 83 highway traffic. And the casualties over the years that we've responded to, the great people that have perished from the accident scenes. If they didn't die at the scene, they died a year later. And one of them was our own fireman, got crushed by a big truck that forgot to stop. And the fireman responded to that scene, heard his pager, and they're looking around like they didn't know him because he was from the Dashwood station. And think about the fear that's in those individuals' eyes and hearts that got to deal with it down the road.
Councillor Harding.
I just want to make a quick comment on Councillor again brought it up, the main corner intersection. There's too many experts in the world today. It's like when you want a weather forecast, when you hear one you like, don't quit listening. And we've got all these experts telling us what we should be doing. And I respect the experts that told us on main corners. We want to try a four-way stop. We've tried everything else, and there had been people wishing for a roundabout. But anyways, they tried the four-way stop, touch wood and whistle. It's been running for almost a year, Imran. I don't know. We've got the speed slowed down, and now we're not having the problem with these bad accidents. Yes, there may be a fender bender or two, but they don't kill people. And so let's be honest. If we could put round or four-way stops at a lot more of these intersections, we would be better off. We can't stop the people that are blowing through them, like John was explaining, but I think we got to give these four-way stops some real credit.
Okay, new information, Councillor Finch.
Yeah, thank you through the warden again. I thank you again for letting me speak. We talk about near misses at other intersections that was discussed here. If we are concerned about that, then we as council members should bring that forward to staff to ask for a report on that intersection, which is what I did here with the Airport Line intersection in the first place. The MTO is actually looking at putting a roundabout at 83 and 21. And of course, Russelldale, there's a discussion, I'm not sure where it is now, about a roundabout at that location, part of highway or County Road 20, which extends into 83 highway. Should four-way stops be installed at busy road intersections on Highway 4 and Highway 21 at different intersections? Can you imagine having to come down Highway 4 or Highway 21 and stop at an intersection and then proceed afterwards on Highway 21? That doesn't make sense. So we go back to the experts. What did the experts tell us? The experts tell us what we need to do, and then we're insulated for that. And there's never a wrong time to make the right decision. And so right now is the right time to make that right decision to say, let's support the staff, let's support BM Ross and their discussion and their expertise, and move forward on it and stop the deferring this, because it is a ticking time bomb. Somebody is going to die there, or there could be a major accident. And, this is all part of the public record.
Pass Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. In listening out to all the conversations, I do think that there is merit in the four-way stops. We all have experienced them at different intersections, and they work because they slow traffic down. And we have experienced a reduction in the speed limit, which was absolutely the right thing. It's been very beneficial at that intersection we're discussing. And to reduce serious accidents or deaths, I would be in favor of implementing a four-way stop at this intersection. When I look at $3 million, a tough budget, that's a sizable amount. And I feel that it would be appropriate to not proceed with this time. Thank you.
Councillor Klopp, please.
Yeah, I keep it on new. Hearing $3 million back 4 years ago when we were doing the road department to try to save money for this council said, and we did this review and asked them, and they said, we also had Blythe and there. And it's still a lot of money. I'm not wishing anything. I wish that people wouldn't have accidents. But it's not about the $3 million. It was 1.82. We don't even know what. It might actually be cheaper because people are tough. But it's not about the money. If it's about the money, then we better stop doing a whole lot of stuff. We don't need we can leave all the roads gravel. There's no law if you want to talk about standards. So just keep that in mind when you vote. If whatever we're going to get a motion here, just keep that in mind.
Pass Warden again, and this is the last comment.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen two sets of numbers on intersections in Huron County. The last one I saw, this intersection did not make the top 10 for accidents in Huron County. I would suggest that we go to the OPP. If it gets deferred this year, the next council should go to the OPP and get a report. If the actions we've taken to this point have reduced the number of accidents at that intersection, then that's good. Maybe we can continue with it. If it all of a sudden gets back up into the top 10, then future council has a look at that. But there's a lot of dangerous intersections in Huron County, and we can't afford to put roundabouts on all of them.
Okay, I'm going to suggest at this time that we just put a pin in a decision. We have a lot of issues on the agenda ahead, and I think it would be premature to start getting too focused at this point. Thank you for your input in your conversations. So at this point, I'd be looking for a motion to receive this report at this time. So that's Councillor Harding, Pass Warden Ginn. Those in favor of that? That is carried. All right, so moving on to the paving strategies, and Imran is available for questions if council had questions regarding this report. Not seeing any, then is there someone willing to receive that report? So that's Pass Warden McClellan, seconded by Councillor Heffer. Those in favor? That is carried. The centerline painter and the chargeable rates, again, Imran is available for questions. We had asked for this report. Is there anything council wants to follow up with? Councillor Klopp, please.
If I remember, the new painting machine is almost double the cost of before. And is there a lot of more bells and whistles and more efficiency that this thing has?
Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you. I don't know if it's more efficient. I know the technology has changed quite a bit since we last purchased it. I'm sure there's a lot more electronics and everything, more capabilities in that sense. But at the end of the day, the centerline painting, the component that actually paints the road is pretty standard. It just sprays paint on it with the ability to put glass beads.
Follow up, Councillor Klopp.
Yes. Looking at, and you had it down how many hours, whatever, costing. Did we look at, or did you look at, we hire it done versus doing it ourselves? Could you enlighten me on that?
Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you, we did a very preliminary analysis for that as part of the was it service level review that we did this year? Yeah, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but just the very preliminary analysis, looking at other counties and the amount of kilometers they pave, it was going to be a little bit more expensive than what we currently pay. Now, keeping in mind that was with the old rates that we had, that we were using at the time. So based on these new rates, we'd have to assess, what impacts that have on the long term, but contracting out was generally more expensive.
And just when you talk about the prices that they charge, that really is tax dollars that shows up in our in our operating side, right? For our capital side to pay for it later. So right now we're doing what, $100 and some per hour that's built in, and your number is 2 something now.
It's 183 based on the calculations that we did that will be proposed based on the new number. So 115 was currently being charged. That was proposed for 2026. Based on the analysis that we just did, we're going to change it to 183 once we get the new painter.
And did you maybe had the number in there, but so that's about $75 an hour. So what is that increasing the for next year's levy?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So our plan was not to increase it for this year because we're not going to get the painter for another year. It's something we can do, but again, it would just impact our operating budget for this year. So we were going to wait until we get the new painter to put the numbers into the budget.
Okay, but you do have a number though, if you could tell us. Tell me right now, but just.
Yeah, we just have to get back on that. It is easily calculatable. But yeah, I just don't have it on with me right now.
Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. So to follow up on this is business. Why could staff look into increasing the rate? A painter's a painter, whether it's the present one we have, does the same work as the new one we would purchase. Could staff look at increasing the current rate per hour with the present painter we have to increase cash flow? Question through you, Mr. Warden.
Questions for me? Yes. And of course, council has the ability to do whatever you like in regards to a question like that. So yes, we could do that. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, thank you. You know, with our fleet reserve, we've always had the philosophy that we charge out what it costs to make the purchase of the next equipment. And yes, definitely we need to increase those amounts. I don't want to say which one I prefer, but I think if we do it on a yearly basis, I don't know, maybe we just adjust for inflation. We just know that inflation on equipment is way higher than general inflation, but if we're going to keep the philosophy that the reserve pays for the next purchase, then we've got to make those adjustments.
Okay, so that sounds like a staff report that would come forward to help us make that decision. Am I getting that? So Past Warden McNeil, you would put that forward as a motion?
Yes, I would.
Past Warden Ginn would second that. Is council in favor of that? And that is carried. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Imran on the centerline painter rates? That deals with it. So is there a motion then to receive this report? Councillor Dietrich, Councillor Becker, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Imran. Consulting for culvert projects. Again, Imran is available for questions if council would have any. Councillor Klopp, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. We talked back a while ago, I guess, council, the province says we need 3 meter culverts to be hired out by an expert. But we had some that at 2.4, there was 35 of them. For, again, a good argument, let's throw them in. Again, back to my comment that we threw every time we wanted to add something, we just added it. But what would be a savings if the 2.4 meter culverts were just not hired by a consultant? The province says you don't even need to do that. So there's 35, and just roughly what would be the savings on that? Again, if you don't have the number right now, that's fine. As far as the rest goes, I appreciated that we do have to hire a person to do that. So I thank you.
Okay. Imran, is that something you could bring back to council at a later date? Oh, you can answer now. Perfect. Go ahead.
So just a clarification on that, the 34 that we added from 2.4 to 3, they do not need a detailed design. we generally would do that for a culvert of that size anyway. The cost that you're talking about is an OSIM inspection, and there's not a lot of savings there. That's just an annual inspection of the culvert. So just looking at, we're doing 211 major culverts right now. 34 of that would be a small percentage. So I'd say probably save like about $20,000 a year in those inspections. Our current budget is around, I believe, 200,000 or so for those inspections.
We'd save $20,000. Well, in my business, and I have there's a lot of dollars we go through. I find $20,000. I think that we should consider that and ask for a little more. What would be the downside? If we're because over 10 years that's 200,000, and maybe around this table that's not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money to me, a lot of money to people in my neighborhood that are trying to pay taxes.
Imran, were you going to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd just like to bring a report back for that if that's something we're considering. I use that number based on just the numbers that I've got, and I'd just like to and the implications of removing that and the pros and cons of it. But it's definitely something we can look into.
So, Councillor Klopp, if you were prepared to make that a motion, then Imran would address that. Go ahead.
These culverts every 2 years. Do we start immediately after it's new? Like 2 years after we build a new bridge, we inspect it? Is that true?
Go ahead, Imran.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I haven't been asked that question before, but I believe it's true. OSIM inspections are done for all structures, and it's just an annual inspection. It has nothing to do with design. It's just to make sure that these structures are safe for, because again, as I mentioned last meeting, in case of failure, it can be catastrophic. So the inspections are, yeah.
So, bridge life is 75 years. I hope after 10 years, it's not in need of repairs, but I understand that we're obligated for the larger ones, but maybe the ones similar to what Councillor Klopp said, but maybe we just don't do them every year. Maybe we can give them do them at 10 years, 20 years, and then every year. I don't know. Just if you can include something like that in your report, I would appreciate it.
Point taken, Councillor Klopp. We're just going to read this motion to see if it captures what you planned.
Yes, we are. The Council of the County of Huron requests a staff report on consulting costs for 2.4 meter or greater culvert inspections. Is this what we're looking for?
I think we have agreed that the 3 meters and up we need it, so it's at the in between. As long as
You'd like to have that say 3 meters or greater?
3 meters or less, I think.
It would be greater. If you're looking to reduce the reductions to 3 meters and greater, that's something for OSIM inspections. That's the way I'm understanding. We currently do inspections for everything above 2.4 meters, and you would like to do it starting at 3 meters, is my understanding.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Correct.
As long as you understand it.
I'd like to reread this motion, if that's okay with you, Councillor Klopp. The Council of the County of Huron requests a staff report on consulting costs for 3 meters or greater culvert inspections by OSIM.
Councillor Past Warden Ginn.
I was thinking the 2.4 to 3, 2.4 to 3 meters, that we look at that option of whether those need to be inspected. Isn't that what you were saying?
That's what I was thinking, but my engineering colleague said, put it as.
Because once we get to 3, then it's mandatory. It's potential that we have to do them.
They're all the same. Yeah, we're just going to reevaluate whether 2.4 to 3 meters is needed or not, and if we should change to only 3 meters and above. Sorry, I apologize for the confusion.
Mover and seconder are good with that.
I am now.
Okay. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
I have another question, sir.
All right.
If somebody else so maybe has. Going down to the entrance culverts, 9,000. I think I must have most of them on our roads. But do we have I didn't see it in here, but I was under the assumption a few years back we we did say that when it came to farmers or whatever, that they pay for the entrance culvert when it needs to be replaced. Is that, I just want to confirm that that's still done that way?
Imran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, and I'm just going to look at my manager here, make sure I don't say anything incorrect. The resident pays for the initial installation, and then going forward, the county does the replacement. So when you put in a new entrance, as part of the permit process that we decide what kind of pipe it will be. The resident is responsible for installing it, and any maintenance going forward, including replacements, are done by the county.
Okay, and that's fair enough. I guess I just was wondering down the road in 20, they last a long time. I think for sure. I just something that I think that could be an argument that we could save some dollars if when they do need replaced, that the owner replaces them if they wish. Just a thought, council. It's obviously not up to the staff, but just pointing that out to people here.
Okay, any other comments? We are looking for a motion to receive the Consulting for Culvert Project report. Councillor Dietrich, Councillor McClellan seconds that. Those in favor? That is carried. Imran, again, available for questions on the Public Works organizational chart. Not seeing any questions. Those in favor of receiving that report, I guess we need a motion first before I do that. So Councillor Noel, Councillor Vanstone, now those that would be in favor of that. That is carried. Thank you. Sandra and Mike are available for questions regarding the Huron Clean Water Project. Past Warden McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This was one of the items on my list as from a budget perspective. Council's had a discussion about a presentation that was made to County Council to make hard decisions to get the budget down to a certain stage. And with the exception of a couple of the items on that page, I think County Council, for the majority of us, have agreed that they are appropriate moves this year. The unfortunate part is that also does mean that there will be some staff that will be dislocated because of that. I have a hard time with the county giving out grants when we're letting employees go. It doesn't seem like a good situation. It really doesn't. I don't think there's anybody or very few people, if any, in this room that didn't believe that was a good program. But even just cutting it from the budget is not going far enough because of the fact that although we were told that there was technically a slush fund from monies that were left over in the past, that we could still carry the program on this year and use those funds. I think those funds should go back into the general accounts because the bottom line is if we're making hard cuts, make your hard cuts as many as you can all at once. You can always add things down the road. But it becomes real daunting, not only for staff, but even for county council, that every year, if you come back and you've heard about the pressures that are coming up, if every year you're just starting to cut more and more and more. Do 1 year, do the hard cuts. If you're letting staff go, get rid of some grant programs and some other things, and then figure out how to get your budget balanced. You know, we've discussed the fact that throughout the year, we're going to try and work on possibly a 5-year program that might help stabilize our budgets going forward. But if you had things like the roundabout money and the $900,000 that was in this flush account, those might help carry council through the next 1 or 2 years to help those budgets work while you're working on other things. So I really have a hard time with the fact of using that slush money when we've got people going. So I guess that's the point where I want to leave it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for other councillor comments on this. Past Warden McNeil, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And yes, I concur with that. We're in a situation where our provincial government has indicated their intent to drop the conservation authorities from 37 to single digits. That is massive. There's going to be changes. We know that. And we need staff to administer the program, or we don't need the program. Those two things go hand in hand. So I think we need to take a hard look at maintaining this. The merit of the program is without question. We're talking about the actual economics and the ability for staff to administer the program. Thank you.
Any other comments on Huron Clean Water? Councillor Dietrich, please, and then Councillor Klopp.
Thank you. And I guess I kind of look at it. I would like to see one more year so that it can be kind of phased out, because there is programs going now that are not going to be just bang dropped. They've already moved into the following year, some of the projects. So I think I would like to see it take some of that reserve money and carry it on for one more year and then see what happens from there. Thank you.
Okay. Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that statement. And we highly suspect there's changes coming to the Conservation Authorities Act. I think we need to see what that actually is before we determine this program, because if there's, like, I agree with Councillor McNeil that if we don't have staff to administer it, we're not going to hire more staff to administer it. So we need the conservation authorities to do that. Let's see how that shakes out. I think if we take that 400,000 out of the reserve of that fund for this year, we can take another look at it in another year.
Councillor Klopp.
I guess I'm just wondering a little bit more about process. Are we, on one other subject, we put a pin in it. We're going to talk about it later, and then I guess make direction. I will, if that's the case on this, then I will defer my thoughts till then.
Councillor Work, please.
Yeah.
CAO Work, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, really that's up to County Council. At the end of the thought that Mike and I had in terms of the process today is, if you want to make a decision in the moment, certainly council can always put forward a mover and a seconder and through motion and get a vote. At the end of the meeting, certainly it is our intention for the votes to happen after we come out of closed session. So that will have given council an opportunity to talk about all of the various issues and then to come out of closed session and to make some final decisions. But truly it's up to council. If you want to deal with it in the moment, deal with it in the moment. But certainly by the end of the meeting, our intention is to make sure that those votes do happen. Thank you.
Past Warden Ginn, please.
My preference would be to hold off on a vote till we've got all the information.
I would concur with that, yes. So if that is the case, then I'd be looking for a motion to receive this report. That's Councillor Bazinet, Councillor Heffer seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. And Vicky is available for questions on the additional economic development budget reduction options presented to council. Any questions on this report? Then I'd be looking for someone to receive this report at this time. That's past Warden McNeil, Councillor Anderson seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. The multi-county comparison for economic development. And again, Vicky is available for questions. And if there's no questions, I'd be looking for someone to receive that report as well. Councillor Vanstone, second Councillor Heffer, those in favor, that is carried. And Beth is to present us the Library and Cultural Services cost savings. So Beth, when you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you. As council is looking for significant cost savings and due to the service intensive nature of the library, considering branch closures really is the sole measure that would produce those kinds of savings at that scale. Alternative cost cutting measures would take many small cuts that would significantly disrupt service delivery and would only result in incremental cost savings being achieved. So for council's information, the report indicates the range of annual savings closing a library branch could achieve. And I'm happy to respond to any questions that council members may have.
Thank you, Beth. Seeing nothing from council at this time, I'd be looking for motion to receive. Councillor Klopp, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll move the report. Again, we're going to have more discussion, but just, I guess, give an idea where I'm at. Libraries to me are the same as our road department. They're an opportunity for people that aren't maybe as well off as myself or whatever, to have an opportunity to go to our libraries. It's a chance to see the world, to open up. And I think it's a plus. It's part of our healthy community. I just keep that in mind as we go forward.
Okay. And again, I think you put that forward as a motion. Councillor McNeil, were you seconding that or wanting to comment?
Could I do both?
You could.
I would be happy to second that.
And your comments, please.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And I concur with the comments of Councillor Klopp. This council recognized the need for broadband and we acted. We also have a need for libraries. It doesn't matter whether it's youth to seniors. And we've had a lot of youth say it's a safe place. And that's, to me, very, very important. So I think this speaks to the fabric of Huron County. Thank you.
Councillor Basnet, please.
Yeah, I was going to save my comments for later, but I think I'll go with the trend here. Being the chair of the library board, I've learned quite a bit over the last year. And I don't read books that often because I don't have time. But I will say a personal story. My wife, as you all know, had a stroke March 31st. What she relies on right now is our Huron County Library to keep her brain active, I guess you could say. She spends time reading books, and lots of books at that. Over the past year, she's read 102 books. The month of January, she read 7 books. So she depends on that for something to do to keep her occupied because she can't work right now. All the points that the other 2 council members made, I also agree with. Not everyone plays sports when we talk about youth, right? Maybe there's a community that doesn't have an arena and this is their only community space or community hub that they can go to. So I'm not in favor of even considering closing any of the libraries. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to call the question of receiving the report at this time. Those in favor? And that is carried. Jeff is available for questions regarding the Seaforth Paramedic Base. Councillor Vanstone, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Yesterday, you can tell I didn't have much to do, so I was out for a drive, and it's 3.5 minutes at the speed limit from our present one in Kinburn to Seaforth. So why are we building a $10 million new depot in Seaforth? Is this to enhance our response time? If it is, then I don't think 3.5 minutes is all that much, because I was driving the speed limit and they won't be. So they could be there in probably 2 minutes. So just a question. Thank you.
Jeff, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Warden. Thank you. And it is a good point. Back in the early 2000s, we had the consultant report that reduced the bases in Huron County at that time from 5 to 4. We originally had a base in Seaforth and we originally had a base in Clinton, and it was recommended that we close both those bases and build the base in Kinburn, which we did. Unfortunate part is that the province over the time has changed the response time standards. This has to do with achieving the response time standard for the municipality of Huron East and for the county overall. Right now, the bulk majority of the call volume for the municipality of Huron East is in the community of Seaforth. It's not. That base is no longer split between Seaforth and Clinton. We now have a base, and we have for the last 12-ish years, give or take, in the municipality of Central Huron in Clinton. So almost arbitrarily, almost every single call they do, they come out of that base and turn right and head into Seaforth. It is not a good use of our resource to have that base in that location anymore. And the consultants have recognized that. And it has to do with, where the call volume is going to increase and the response time required for that.
Past Warden McClellan, Councillor Klopp, and CAO Work.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was on County Council when we received the consultant report that told us to put it halfway between Clinton and Seaforth. And unfortunately, I bought into that consultant's report. It didn't take very long. It was a couple of years down the road and we realized that was a mistake. It really was a mistake. We had closed some bases in some smaller urban centers, and it was just the wrong thing to do. Now, the staff have worked diligently over the last decade to try and move some locations to the more urban centers because it does reduce, and that's where the majority of the calls end up. I'm not pushing for whether you go ahead with this or not, but the bottom line is having the ambulances in the urban centers where the majority of the population are is proving to be the best use of our resources, and we need to do something.
Councillor Klopp, please.
I guess remembering the history, I was one of the 5 that didn't buy into it and voted the other way, but it didn't matter. We still spent $4.5 million of everybody's money, and c'est la vie. But it's not about making the same mistake twice. It's about remembering we've got to make tougher choices. So at the end of the day here, you didn't mention that the ambulance building where it is also getting costly and wore down. That's another little problem. So, but this idea that we're going to spend $8 million and have this wonderful building, when it says right in this report, we also have to do Tucker Smith Abilities, Bayfield and Zurich, which are also the consultants of which we have to follow sometimes, says these things need to be happening. So I'm prepared to make a motion today for direction for this council to give to next, because it's basically next council that the ambulance base direction is that the ambulance base in Seaforth is the same as what we've been doing at all the other places. It just deals with what you need there. Is it 2 bays, 1 bay, a place for them to stay? So unfortunately, they're $1 to $2 million. I brought up about a house before. Anyway, that's what we need to give direction. We talk about trying to save capital dollars for future, $8 million. When it says, and it just so people on my motion, if it's seconded, there's this argument that's in here, we need place for storage, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the building 3.5 minutes away maybe can be used for some storage. I think they're talking about trying to sell it. Well, anybody that knows where it is, I don't know how much money we'll get for it, but it sure can have a padlock on it and have some storage in it. But to give direction, that's what I'd like to see so that people can start planning. And at least we can, if we're not on this council, I don't want to hear about it later. Well, we were told they were going to spend $8 million and we passed it. So I'm making a motion that this potential, no, it will be built, Seaforth, be in the $1 to $2 million or whatever words, 1 or 2 bays, and what is actually needed. And I'd look to the clerk to try to write this, but be very clear. It is built in the same pattern as what we've done in all the other places. What's actually needed in Seaforth for paramedic use.
So while the clerk is just doing some wordsmithing, I am going to turn it over to CA Work for some comments.
Yeah. So again, through you, Mr. Warden, just point of clarification. This is a budget discussion that we're having today. And as indicated in the report, there are no allocations of any kind in the 2026 budget relating to this project or any other base project. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear that staff in the future, if there were any activity on this particular file, those reports would be coming forward to County Council for consideration, but there are no dollars in the budget as of right now relating to this project.
So Councillor Klopp, with that information, are you still looking for a motion or let it go at this time?
Did we have a seconder?
We did not. There was no motion yet.
Oh, I did make a motion. I'm trying to get her to.
It wasn't wordsmithed very well at this
Okay.
point.
Well, yes, I do want to make a motion that we give direction that because as though it's been said, there's been no money in this budget, but it sure has been part of the discussion of this budget. And based on what some of us are talking about for the future. So I think this council can step it up, and I will base that, councillors, because I have been on and off this council, and I have seen the previous council tell me after, I wish we would have gave you direction. When I heard you guys followed on what you thought we said, we never made any direction, and I felt bad about that. So I'm learning from my history. So since it's been brought up in this budget numerous times that we've got to try to plan for it, this council is going to be setting direction for next council.
So Councillor Pop, I would certainly
I want to
caution.
make a motion that we, as far as this council is concerned, the Seaforth, what's needed at Seaforth be done 1 or 2 bays as what's required for an actual ambulance service in Seaforth.
Oh.
Close enough?
Slightly, I'm trying to be a magician right now. So I have some concern regarding directing a future council and your ability to do that. I'm going to put that out there on the floor right now. What I would suggest that this is something that will be coming back with the new council. And when we have that new council in place, all reports that have previously been presented will be presented to them. If you would like a motion that the 2022 council recommends to the 2026 council consideration of the number of bays for this project, we can make that a motion, but you cannot direct them. And I mean, or you can just make a motion that staff potentially includes your recommendation, the 2022 council recommendation to review the number of bays of this project. I'm not quite sure which direction you're looking for.
I respect about the direction. So either one of those two that you gave me as an option, at least it's officially on the record. That's my point. If it's seconded.
It will be.
If this is the wording that Councillor Klopp was shooting for, I might be. Oh, sorry. If this is the wording Councillor Klopp was shooting for, I'd be willing to second it. That we just recommend to future council that they also consider what is needed for an ambulance station without the office attachment.
And our clerk is feverishly writing, and we will give her a moment to capture those thoughts. Our clerk is going to read the motion for the mover and the seconder to see if that captures what you're looking for.
I suspect you're going to add some stuff, and that's okay. The Council of the County of Huron requests staff include the recommendation to the 2026 Huron County Council to consider the Seaforth Ambulance project with 2 bays and a reduction of office space. Okay.
Password McClellan.
As the seconder, instead of listing the number of bays, just state requirement for an operational ambulance station.
Sorry.
I concur with that.
Instead of listing the actual number of bays, just state whatever is needed for an operational ambulance station. It can be determined by the council of the day.
Okay. The Council of the County of Huron requests to staff include the recommendation to the 2026 Huron County Council to consider the Seaforth Ambulance Project with whatever is needed for operational requirements and a reduction of office space. Is that okay with the mover, Councillor Klopp and Councillor McClellan?
I'm not going to belabor to all of us. The point is it's going to be there for us, something to think about. That's all I wanted.
Those in favor of that motion? 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, put your hands up. 1, 2,
2, 3, 4, 5. That motion is defeated. Okay. Can I have someone receive this report from Jeff? That's past Warden Ginn, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Those in favor? That is carried. I'm now looking for a motion to go into our closed session. That's Councillor Harding, Councillor Goderich. Those in favor? That is carried, and we will stop at this time for a comfort break. So we've already made a motion to re-enter into open session of council. That was made by past Warden McClellan, seconded by Councillor Anderson, and carried. So our CAO, Megan Wark, is now going to do a report out of our closed session.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, the purpose of going into closed session today for council to receive information regarding personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal employees, specific to the 2026 draft budget and the 2026 draft budget relating to libraries.
Okay. The Council of the County of Huron needs to direct staff to proceed as per the direction that was given in closed session. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Past Warden McClellan, Councillor Goderich seconding that. Those in favor? That is carried. I'm going to call a short recess break. Give ourselves a chance to get up, move around, and we will come back in 5 minutes. So as you take your seats, Mike is prepared to finish us up with that list that we wanted to discuss yet. So Mike, when you're ready, you go ahead and walk us through that, please.
Out here.
Point of just, I would advise counselors to be very careful. Get the emotion. But I just want to be fair. So I won't be fair after.
And just remind all counselors, we were in camera.
Councillor Finch.
Yeah, thank you through the warden.
I need a seconder for the motion before I go any further. So Councillor Harding, you're seconding that motion? Okay. So that I have to deal with this motion. It's been put forward. My preference is that you can, yes.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm lost in this meeting. I'm sorry. And I can't make these decisions that you want made as fast as you want them made. And that's partly to do with my age, and I should have, like, some of us that are not running for sure, and we should be excused from some of this if we've got reasons that we're not able to comprehend everything. And like, I'm disappointed in all of this, and I'll say that to anybody. And No, I support entirely in his motion.
Councillor Bazinet.
Thank you. And I'm happy Past Warden Ginn made the motion because I'm younger than Doug, but I feel the same way. A lot of emotions here. And I'm not a big believer in having meetings over 3 hours, especially when we're making these important decisions. And we still have important decisions to make. And I think this could be probably added, what's left added on to our the 18th of February meeting, if the majority of council so chooses. But my brain is done and I have to travel to Saugeen Shore still. And I realize maybe some council members want to get this done today, but when we go over 3 hours, sometimes decisions aren't made with the right mindset. So those are my thoughts and I support the motion.
Councillor Finch.
And I would support Councillor Ginn's motion on the fact that we have had more than 3 hours now. Councillor Becker had another meeting to go to. I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. I understand somebody else has a 1 o'clock. I have no problem. I would support the fact we move it to the next meeting, and it allows us time to review what we've already discussed.
Councillor Klopp.
And I support the motion on, we have 3 hours in the motion. It's not because I made tough decisions or whatever. It is 3 hours. It's probably wise. But I just want on process, did we have to have some motions coming out of council? Did we already have that? So we're fine. Thank you. Then I got no problem saying that we call another meeting for the rest of the budget. We weren't planning on getting it all done today. That certainly wasn't my thought. So no problem. When is our next budget meeting?
Pastor Warren McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm actually glad to hear that it is emotionally overwhelming for some people, because if we're making our decisions, I want it to be impacting us also. Mr. Warden, I would ask that we don't add this to the end of a council meeting, because for the same reason, if our council meeting goes a couple hours, I don't want to feel rushed when we're making the final decisions. Could we just add one more day? I think that's the better way to handle it.
CAO work review. I got some comments.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we don't have another budget meeting scheduled. So what we would do is tack it on to the 18th. I have to say a couple of things. One, it's really difficult to come up with a date that's going to work for all of County Council. And given the fact that we're talking about budget, it's really important that we have all of County Council at the table. So I would just, I feel like we can work with the agenda that's coming up next week and make it more manageable to try and prioritize this at that meeting if that is acceptable to County Council. I don't want us to be in a position where we can't get everyone in the room for budget conversation. So those are my thoughts.
Those in favor of the motion that's on the table to adjourn. That motion is carried. Our meeting is finished. Thank you.